Monday, February 5th, 2024. I'm calling to order the Middleton School Committee meeting. This meeting is recorded. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any remarks from the public? Seeing none. Okay. We'll move on to approval of the previous meeting minutes, which is it was January 11th.
And the 8th.
In the 8th, yes.
The 11th is short.
Yep. So we'll start with January 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 8th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes from January 8th, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, moving on to the minutes from January 11th.
Don't go through it in order like this.
Sorry.
You don't want to get.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 11th.
I wasn't there. I wasn't. Can I vote?
You were there. You were.
Oh, wait.
It was Zoom.
That was the online
Oh, the
one.
Zoom. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't think I was there. Was I?
Yeah, you were.
That was the survey.
Joe and I were not there.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to see?
Yeah, I for whatever reason I can't get service, so I can't even
You wanna
see
look?
this. Yeah.
It was the two IAs in the survey, Natasha.
I have like no memory of this. Sadly. Well, probably because it was a 5-minute. Was it a 5-minute?
Yeah, it was super short.
Oh, you're right. I do remember this. Okay. Yes. All right. David made the motion.
Yes.
I will second it.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from January 11th, say aye.
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 Any nays?
I'm
Any
going to
abstains?
abstain because I
Okay.
was not there.
All right, very good. Thank you. Moving on. All right, so, reports from the superintendent.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. Happy February. One item that's not on the agenda, just want to make you aware of. Jen and Jeff aren't here tonight. They're both not feeling well. And we had a high number of absences at Fuller today. We just flew, which was interesting. We had Friday was like 96% attendance, so it wasn't like a Friday thing, and then like something happened over the weekend, and we had close to 50 kids out at Fuller.
Not
Just-
how many?
No, high Manning was, a little higher than normal, but not, as high as Fuller Meadow was. So Heather sent a note home, or if she didn't, she'll be sending it home tomorrow. Heather, the nurse here, just, reminding people, we'll increase cleaning and disinfecting just to make sure any commonly touched surfaces and things like that. But it's that time of year. This is what we see typically this time of year, especially at the younger grades. Kids are kind of all up in each other's grill at that age anyway, and you tend to have a little more passing of flu and things like that. So we'll keep an eye on it throughout the course of the week, but it didn't, again, Friday, Thursday last week was relatively normal. This was sort of the first aberration day in terms of high number of kids out, and so we'll see how that unfolds. I've asked Jen to kind of stay in touch with me if she's here tomorrow, or her office, to let me know. So that is that quick update. In the drive, a couple of things to point to your attention, the first of which, if you can click on the one that reads golf course parking. As the team here is aware, we at some point will lose the golf course. That we've worked with the town to maintain the golf course through the end of this school year, which we know is very, very important. So you'll see sort of a little, kind of a cartoon, kind of a drawing that we put together. You'll see there that there'll be two entrances when the town finally turns the property over to the construction company, and we don't know exactly when that date will be. But there'll be that construction entrance off of 114, and again, this is not drawn to scale, this is just to give you an idea. There'll be a school entrance, and then the school entrance will be, just kind of follow the red arrows and then spin back around. And so now, as you know, folks park perpendicular, I guess the best way I could say it, to 114, and now they'll be more parallel to 114. So Jen will put this out. We're not going to put it out anytime soon. We don't want to put it out now because it's not like this is changing on tomorrow. I don't think people will need a lot of notice to figure this out. This is pretty easy to do. So a week or so ahead of time, we'll wait to hear from Town Hall when the town will control the property. I'm hearing now that might not be until March timeframe, maybe even early April. So we're not going to make any changes yet until we absolutely have to, but this will be the drawing that will go out, and we've been working closely with the town on this piece. We met the gentleman who's representing the construction firm down at the driveway, and we kind of talked about what this would look like. And again, this just gives you a little bit of a general idea. So more to come on this, but this is what the parking will look like until we get through. And then as the team knows here, thank you for approving the survey. That is underway. Steve did ask for an update. I know you had asked me the other day, Michelle, do you have an update on that? I'll ping Steve while we're here today. He was going to reach out to I forget the name of the survey company, but he'll reach out to them and find out where we are with that. And that'll help us determine what any sort of next steps could potentially look like. So that is Fuller Meadow parking. The next one is now a 30-second conversation because it got voted down. But if you click on the slide that reads chronic absenteeism, the commissioner was looking at the Department of Ed, was looking to put forward a proposal to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. As you know, for MCAS, we have our accountability rates, and accountability is made up of 4 factors, and you can see in that document there, they're made up of achievement, student growth, EL proficiency, and then additional indicators. And at the elementary level, the additional indicator is chronic absenteeism. The proposal that the commissioner made was to lower the achievement band of the accountability structure from 67 to 52, and to increase the chronic absenteeism band from 10 to 25%. That obviously drew a reaction from a lot of people, the superintendents included, that's, for accountability to be, or chronic absenteeism to go up 15%, achievement to go down 15%, like, that didn't seem like to be like a fair way to try to impact chronic absenteeism, particularly where the schools don't have 100% control over chronic absenteeism. We also don't have 100% control over achievement, but we have much more control over achievement than we do chronic absenteeism. So I was going to fill you in and say if we needed to do anything, it got voted down, so it's a kind of a non-starter. But I just wanted you to be aware that this was a conversation at the state level, but the board voted it down.
Can I ask a quick question, just because
back to the drawing board
it
on that.
says,
Yep.
Under both the current and proposed weighting, the with EL and no EL, what's EL?
English language learners.
That is, okay.
Yeah, so if you have a English language learner population, it was ELL for a while, and now
Yeah.
it's EL, and I
Okay,
believe
and that's what I
L.
thought it was, but
Now
I
it's just L.
thought
Yeah.
that was a kind of a strange way to, I don't know, break it down. But
Yeah.
Okay, got voted down anyways.
Yep, so it's kind of a non-starter. MSBA SOI Fuller Meadow roof. Okay, so in the drive, if you could click on the document that reads MSBA SOI, not the one that reads Fuller Meadow Roof SOI, but the one that reads MSBA SOI. So MSBA is the Mass School Building Authority, and the Mass School Building Authority partners with school districts to work on building envelope project, be they roofs, be they windows, it used to be at one time boilers as well. And districts can submit what's called a statement of interest to say like, hey, state, we would like to partner with you on a project because the state, if you're accepted into their program, will contribute up to 40 cents on the dollar to do a project, whether it be a roof project or a window project or something like that. In 2 of our towns, in Middleton and Boxford, we did the roof at Fuller Meadow. Steve, what was the date on that? Was it 15 or even a little bit earlier, 12? I forget when the roof was done. Either way, when the roof was done, last time the roof was done here, there was a section of roof that wasn't 25 years old. It has to be 25 years old in order to be eligible for reimbursement from the state. So there was a section of roof, 7,500 square feet here at Fuller Meadow, that was not eligible, that now it is eligible. So we've been working with Justin at Town Hall and saying, hey, look at, now this roof, this 7,500-foot section is now more than 25 years. We would like to put a statement of interest in to see if we get accepted into the program, and then we would get 40 cents on the dollar to do that work. Justin at Town Hall is in agreement. Of course, we want to take care of our buildings, right? We know, as we say all the time, we're not building a new elementary school anytime soon, right? We want to take care of the assets that we have, and I think we've done a good job of that with the committee's help, for sure, you know, with all the capital projects and things over the years. So in order to do this, putting in an SOI doesn't mean you're guaranteed, you know, a spot at the dance, so to speak. It just means that you're in the game. We could put in an SOI this year and not get accepted into the program. And then we have to put in an SOI next year and then maybe hopefully get accepted into the program. So it's not a guarantee. It doesn't mean like, oh, we do this, there's going to be a small roof project happening at Fuller Meadow in the next couple of years. Because they might say, and my guess is, just as a little side note, they had to shut down the SOI program during COVID because, you know, in the early years of like 2021, districts had submitted an SOI, and it was like, oh, you want to build you need to put a new roof on, it's going to be $5 million. Well, then with inflation, it then went to $8 million. Well, take that times 40 projects, and the state didn't have enough money to partner. So they actually paused the SOI program for a couple of years. They're just restarting it. It's due on March 1st. Our recommendation to you as administrative team is, yes, we absolutely should put in an SOI. It doesn't hold us to anything. It doesn't commit us to anything. It just gives us a, you know, an invitation potentially to the dance, so to speak. We don't know if we'll be dancing or not until we hear back from the state. And if we are successful in being accepted into the program, Justin is aware of it. Select Board also has to take a similar vote. So later on tonight, you'll see on a new business that, you know, we'll be asking the school committee to, and it's a very specifically worded motion that's in the drive, to approve us to submit the SOI. MSBA won't accept an application unless they see a vote from the school committee, unless they see a vote from the Select Board. So Justin's going to work with the Select Board on you know, obtaining that vote, working here tonight to do the same thing for the SOI. And then we'll see where it leads us in terms of are we accepted into the program or not. The one thing I will say we have going for us across the Tri-Town is that anytime we've submitted an SOI, we have been ready to go. I think what I found over the course of my career is that some districts submit an SOI, and then they get in, and they're like, oh, hold on, we got to pull the team together, and we got to get organized, and the state's like, whoa. If you're in this program, you need to be able to move. And so I don't know if that helps our application or doesn't, or it's something they even look at, but we have been successful across the 3 towns anytime we've had an SOI, whether it was for roofs or boilers or windows. So,
What is the timeline? Like, how quickly do they react once you submit it?
Steve, you have a better sense of that than I do? Like, would we know by the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, I do think you'll see activity before the end of the fiscal year. What I mean by that is they may come out and visit the site
Okay.
and look at things and then respond, and then you may get a letter saying, yes, we're interested in partnering with you.
Okay.
And then we go from there. But, yeah, they may do a site visit. I probably will do a site visit as part of their evaluation.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So more to come on that when we get a little bit further down, but I wanted to just sort of prime you with that at the beginning of the meeting. And then report card pilot feedback system. So we had as you know, we're piloting the new reporting system this year. We did conferences back in October. Thank you very much. And we did a survey on that. And then we did the report cards just this past late January. Peggy, my understanding is we have a survey going out on that a couple of weeks or so.
Yeah, we'll want to have parents before vacation.
Before the break, yeah. So the feedback, and we'll do a whole presentation, obviously, for all 3 committees once we get all the feedback back, but if it's okay to have Peggy just quickly mention about the parent-teacher conference ones that came back, I think, very positive.
Yeah, it was very positive. It was kind of across both teachers and parents feeling like the October was just better, forming relationships of being able to address issues before they became sort of too big, which I think sometimes felt like December was maybe a little bit too late to be having those conversations. So it was overwhelmingly positive for both groups to have that in October.
Yeah, I definitely liked having the earlier parent-teacher conferences too. Yeah.
I agree.
And then we'll see, well, as I said, Peggy will get that out. I'll do a winter update, from the superintendent's office with, here's the latest updates on things and, all the pieces, and we'll put the survey link right in there for folks to give us feedback on the report card piece as well. And then we'll do a presentation at a March or April school committee meeting and fill the committee in on
Okay.
where everything went. Yeah.
Okay.
And just as a side note on that, we've been working on calendar as well. We'll bring the calendar to the next meeting. It's going to look very similar to this year.
Okay.
At the moment, there's no, no additional time being requested or things like that. It's very similar. The one little tweak on the calendar next year, because it's a leap year this year, Christmas and New Year's moves to a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Which, as a kid, that was like the dream come true, right? Like 2 weeks of vacation,
Yeah.
right? Like, but what we have done in the past, and my recommendation will be the same, come back on January 2nd and 3rd, as opposed to doing the full 2 weeks out, come back that Thursday and Friday.
Oh.
We did it last time,
Okay.
7 years ago when it was on a Wednesday. We did the same thing.
I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, I had internet look. I'm like, double check this for me. I think 7 years ago when this hit, we did the same way. And it's just, it gets everybody back in for a couple of days, and it's when you're out for 14 days, it's a long time to be
Yeah.
away from school. So we'll bring that up the next meeting.
Okay.
And those are the updates.
Okay. Mr. Greenberg.
All right, good evening, everyone. What's included in the drive? Financial report first. Here's the financial report for the month of February, even though it's really January. But anyways, everything's on course. Nothing extraordinary at this point in time. As we get closer to April, May, we're going to come back to the committee and have recommendations for closeout and possible use of tailings. All right, so we're not there yet, too early, but we'll get to see everything start to come into focus. And even though we'll have recommendations, it's always subject to change because things are so fluid. But I'll stop talking and answer any questions you guys may have.
I think I'm going to hear a lot of your talking on Saturday.
It's melodic tones. You'll hear 4 hours of it.
Melodious.
Melodious.
All right, FY25 budget. Again, not a heck of a lot. At this point, everyone should have their budget book. And there's also an electronic version for your use, which has a little more detail, with the new books. It's in the drive. Thank you. All right, but if, with the books, we had to consolidate the detail to make it fit in 8.5 by 11. And if you still want all the detail about where grants are going, so on and so forth, and projections, then the electronic version is there for you. We did meet with the Select Board and Finance Committee on Saturday, the chair, Dr. Morrison, and I, to give them an overview of the budget. It's just timing-wise, it's just the way it worked out that we were in front of them before we had our deliberation, so they know we're at the starting line of this. I thought we had a productive discussion. They talked about transportation. We emphasized our needs in district and out of district with regard to special education and the investments we're looking to make with enrichment. So I'll stop there. So, here we go. I think the budget that you're going to be deliberating on is a really good budget. There may be some fine tuning as we go forward, but I feel really good about this one. So that's what I got, Madam Chair, unless there are questions.
Just ahead of Saturday, Steve, as it stands today, right now, again, we haven't even started the budget process. We've talked already at earlier meetings about we're probably in override land and so on and so forth, but as of right now, again, without even starting the discussion, what does that look like, override?
I think the override, we're going to be in that 450 to 500 range at this point in time.
Okay.
We're going to do some fine tuning, but 450 to 500, which
Less than we originally
Yeah,
thought.
that's less, yeah.
Close to a million,
yes,
right?
because you're looking at how things are playing out. When you're first anticipating it and you're looking at all, and I'm looking at all the pieces, I think we were more like 700 plus. But then when we factored in, let's say, retirements, reducing levels, and a couple of other things that worked out in our favor, it brings it down. You know, and we're applying, I think the circuit breaker's up a little, the rest of the applied income remains the same, I think. So, yeah, I mean, we're also gonna have a discussion about buses and so on and so forth, so that's where I think it's gonna be beneficial as far as the budget's concerned. You know, maybe one other retirement, maybe not, but, yeah, I mean, it's just the way the numbers are actually playing out when we put the budget out there.
And what was communicated to us on Saturday is I think that the town might be looking at an override as well.
Oh,
I
yes,
think that
you know,
came through clearly.
it's coming to that point, you
Yeah.
know, as they said, I think it was 7 years, Scott.
Yeah,
And, you know,
they thought they'd get 5,
yep,
and they got 7
right.
for the
So,
schools.
you know, so it's just one of those things, and I don't think they're in favor of a menu option, because the menu option last time didn't work, it failed, versus putting everybody together. The risk of putting everyone together is that if it fails, everyone's going to experience the pain, and we will experience our proportionate share of the pain, and we're the biggest department. So it's just an FYI. It's not to scare you or deter you from advocating for the budget, but that's just the way it works. And I think it's going to be critical for the committee to get ready to advocate hard, you know, in a positive way. I don't think you're going to have a lot of detractors, but for the people that, you know, have been experiencing a lot with the building project, more money for the building project, other things that are coming up, Masco's capital plan, advocacy, and communication from the committee is going to be important.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. Did you have anything from?
I don't.
Jen or Jeff?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on. I'm not seeing any gifts and grants.
Nope.
So then it would be the subcommittee, policy subcommittee.
And would it be okay with the chair if, just kind of coming out of the budget discussion that Steve just kind of queued up, it might be good to jump to item number 4, because it kind of connects?
Sure.
Maybe take something out of order with the planning board discussion?
Yes.
So maybe that fits nicely here where we're coming out of the budget conversation?
Yes,
So it's okay
sure.
to go out of order?
Yeah, that's fine. So the planning board in town has a few zoning proposals in the works. There's been a couple of recent meetings on those, and I'm hearing that the draft text of those hasn't been released yet, but there will be a public hearing. There's also a survey on the town website. Just wanted to bring some attention to that activity. Natasha, you know a little bit more about it than I do.
I attended, the planning board hosted an open forum last Tuesday at the library. So it was just a chance for anybody from the community to come. And I attended as a resident, not as a board member. There's a couple things. One of the zoning, I guess, issues or challenges they're trying to kind of deal with is the MBTA communities, that those changes. There was a discussion about whether Middleton should move forward with that, or there's a couple of towns that are suing the state, saying, like, we're not making these changes, it's too much, especially now in light of the economy. There was another change to multifamilies, like making a single-family home a multifamily. And there were restrictions, like obviously your septic, you had to have double the amount, you had to have 2 acres instead of 1 acre. It's sort of all tied to affordable housing, and that's been another kind of push from the state. So a lot of discussion. The meeting is actually posted on the town website. If you go on the Middleton town website, you'll be able to find the meeting. It was only like roughly an hour, but a lot of good discussion. The final zoning change, and the one that I felt, one as a resident, but also in the back of my head, the other hat that we wear as a school committee member, was this. It's called additional dwelling unit, ADU, and it would allow anybody who owns a half an acre of land to put a 900 square foot structure, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, on their land for rent, or for you know, if you're a person who's aging and you want a caretaker to move in, your daughter-in-law or whoever, maybe you move into the dwelling unit and your daughter-in-law, whatever. There's a bunch of different ways to do that, but they talked about, you know, elderly folks might benefit from renting a space to somebody else. My concern, both as a resident but also as a school committee member, is the impact to the schools, because there's no way to regulate how many kids come in, and there's no way for us to plan budget-wise who's coming in. Like I mentioned in my comments in the meeting, like, we can kind of track it. NASDAQ, you have different ways of, if a builder buys acres in Middleton and we know there's 100 houses going up, you can guesstimate, but this is going to be, and there's roughly 1,000 homes in Middleton that would be eligible for that. So I just wanted to have the discussion and ask the other board members to, actually David attended as
I
well.
also attended the meeting.
What was your?
It was very similar, so I went to the original one, which was a very small meeting, very few people showed up, and then I attended the same one as you as a parent and a member of the community. But like you said, the numbers, like, so they need to identify, because of the MBTA, this legislation that passed, they said that each town that's a peripheral town to an MBT line, so we don't have any buses, we don't have any trains that come through the town, but because we border with the town that has it, the state legislation says that we have to set aside 50 acres, right, of land, that's some area, that then could be developed to create this type of housing. And I think they were talking like 1,300 houses total. So if they create 1,300 houses, my like problem with that is, like you said, how can the school sustain, right, that many children with our budgets? And, we asked the question and said, what are we going to get as a benefit? There's no subsidies that the state provides us in exchange for doing this. So we're not getting any subsidies for infrastructure or any type of additional funds to do anything. So they're asking us to do this, and we're not going to really get anything for it. And that in itself, to me, is not a plus. And the people that were doing the zoning, they said, well, if you put these developments on, then you'll get tax dollars. But you can't imagine that the amount of taxes that are going to be created. I mean, we have 2,200 homes in Middleton and 1,000 condos, so it's like 3,200. So they want to add 1,300 more households. That's going to flood our school system and our infrastructures and traffic, and even like emergency, like firefighters. So like I think it would be a big misstep. I know some peripheral communities are talking about doing. I think one has already started like a lawsuit, because the district attorney said that they would take action if we don't comply. So the deadline's December this year, 2024.
Right, New Year's Eve of 24.
So that's to allocate a zone for 50 acres. They're not going to be immediate. There's not going to be immediate development, because one of the places they're looking at is the Frontcroft, and the other is Bostic, which is down in the Peabody. But what they would do is they would zone it, and let's say Bostic sold then to a developer, then they could potentially come in and build these 1,300 units. So it could be like a really quick, like, development that could really tax a lot of our, system, especially the school system.
I think that was one piece of the
And that's
there's kind of
multiple
different pieces that they're looking to change.
Yeah.
That's the MBTA Communities Act. The other, what you were talking about, the ADU, which is the accessory dwelling
additional
unit.
dwelling unit.
My question on that, and what I couldn't gather from viewing that meeting, was if this was approved and somebody wanted to add in up to a 900 square foot additional dwelling to their house, they wouldn't necessarily need a special permit or anything to do so. So if they did that and they didn't need a special permit, how would the town then know to reassess that property to get their new value?
They
to
wouldn't.
change they wouldn't. Right. So where's the benefit for the town?
There isn't. I mean, I think I said it verbatim, and I just don't understand the benefit. Like, what is the upside for us? If legally, I mean, you could argue it both ways, I guess. Fight it at the state level for the Communities Act, or don't. But the ADU, if they said, like, we're going to give you a turf at Masco if you do that. Oh, all right. Well, now you're talking. Like, but there doesn't appear to be any upside.
I don't see an upside. I think if, like, to your point, I know, like, when you build a property, at the end, you have to get your, certificate of occupancy. So if you build a structure like that, you have the final inspection. And I think through that final inspection, the tax assessors they will increase the taxes, but I can't imagine for a 900 square foot dwelling that the tax increase would justify what the cost would be for the rest of the town, like whether it's education or additional firefighters, additional police officers. I mean, I can't say that because I don't know, but I just don't think it would balance out.
Right.
How do they police it too, in the sense of, and I need to learn more about it, obviously, and I will. What if it passed, let's just say, and then no one decided to build a structure? Does the state then say, you didn't meet the guideline?
No, the whole point is
So
to
it-
zone it. It's not going to be utilized right away, so the zoning has to change. The zoning's in place.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily, like, they could, like, for instance, they could say the Ferncroft. The Ferncroft might stay,
They're
they say
privately
both.
held.
I mean the unit, the dwelling that you guys are talking about. If
Okay.
no one decided to build a 900
So
square
that
foot
has
unit.
nothing to do with affordable housing. Those numbers,
oh.
that's the other interesting thing. Those
Okay.
don't do anything for affordable housing. So I think.
So that
from
doesn't
my-
meet the MBTA thing.
No, they're
This is
two,
separate.
that's
Yeah.
why it's kind of confusing, because
Oh,
there's
okay.
separate things that they're looking to change.
The upside, as I understand it, for the ADU, that separate issue is
Additional
for,
dwelling units.
for elderly people to be able to rent out space to earn extra
Got it.
income, which I hear you right now, extra income is great.
Sure.
But play that out. You rent that out for $1,500 a month, cash in your pocket, but then you bring in 2 students who are whatever it costs to educate, whatever their needs are. The comment that I made in the meeting is, I find it hard to believe, I could be wrong, but I find it hard to believe that the income, the tax income would offset the cost to educate them, and then play that out by 1,000 families. They're saying, of course, it wouldn't be that many. I don't know. I mean, they also, there was a gentleman that spoke at the end. I don't know, he was part of the consulting firm, but he said, on average, we looked at another town that does the ADUs, and they have like 2 a year. And in my head, I'm thinking, then why change it? Let those people go get a permit, those 2 people. And if the town deems it a great idea, then,
Then you can control it.
but why, but this would be by right. So my neighbor doesn't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
They can just slap it on there. If they're on a half an acre. Anyway, the survey is posted on the town website, so I hope that during that meeting last week, the consultant mentioned there were like roughly 90 responses at that point. So hoping to get more feedback from residents, and also hoping folks will go on and watch that. It's less than an hour. Just to, they give you like the 5-minute overview on what we're talking about.
And at the end of the day, what is proposed will be up for election at town meeting.
Oh, it goes on the.
Yes.
Okay.
At town
For a
meeting,
vote.
Yeah.
Right. So on
Either
February.
the ADU or the MBTA thing.
So, okay, so on Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
the planning board meets and they're creating the text for what it would look like, what the zoning changes
Okay.
would look like, all 3.
Yeah.
And then on February 28th, there's a public hearing, and they will, I mean, that's the one I think, if people are interested and want to be heard, that would be a good one to show up and say, I disagree, this has a lot of negative, or whatever your opinion is. And then ultimately, yes, it does go to town meeting, but that scares me too, because, town meeting's tough. I feel like, I've been to town meetings where they only get 100 people.
Yeah.
100 people voting for 10,000 people is like, it's kind of nuts. So the more we know, the better, I think. The more folks kind of dig in and read about it, or, watch the video.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Yep.
Is this something, and I didn't go to the meeting and I know nothing about it other than what you guys just said, but are either the other 2 towns in a similar, are they looking at either of those things? And
They
either-
may not be adjacent to a town that
not.
has the
They're not
MBTA.
Who's the
They're not Topsfield and Boxford, I don't think.
No, because someone in the meeting asked that, Javi asked that
Yes,
in the
yeah.
meeting.
Oxford is to North Andover, and North Andover is where the train is.
I don't know.
I've not
I know
heard
that because he specifically said, are the other 2 towns making these changes? And they said no.
Okay.
So,
I've not heard in the other 2 towns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the policy subcommittee
Okay.
meetings.
So in the drive, you'll see a folder titled Policies, and this is the mundane work that we
Yes.
have to kind of work through, and so it's going to be a little tedious, so bear with us. A big thank you to Dave, as I say all the time in Middleton, and Stephanie in Boxford, and Candace in Topsfield. who serve as a policy subcommittee to help make this process be less mundane than it could be if we had to do all this at the school committee meetings across the 3 towns. So that's why we have the TTU Policy Subcommittee. So there are a series of policies in here that MASC has made some recommendations to. It might be updating a legal reference, it might be updating language, it might be updating a source, it might be a minor update. So the Policy Subcommittee has voted and agreed on these changes. And what we would need to do as a committee first, as you guys know from doing this in the past, in order to try to expedite this somewhat, we would need to waive policy BGB, which is the policy on how you make policy, which, as we talked about in the past, it has to go through 3 readings and so on and so forth. If we waive that, it allows the policy subcommittee's work to move forward in an expeditious manner. And so that would be the first motion we'd be seeking. And then I can take you through, and Dave can jump in on any of the changes that we had here so far. We'd go through them AA, ACA, BB, so on and so forth. We'd have to vote them one at a time, so it would be a motion to accept policy AA as written with suggested changes. And then we would do the same thing for ACA, BB. I'm going to keep BEDH to the end, just because that will take a little bit more discussion. So we'll hold on BEDH. And then we'll give the committee an update on some of the policy work that Dave has brought to the policy sub as well that we are navigating through. So I know we've been down this train track before, so to
Yes.
speak, to stay on the idea of trains. So we would need a BGB motion first.
I will make that motion to waive policy BGB.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor of waiving policy BGB, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so let's just start with AA.
Yep, so if you go into AA and double-click on that one, you can see the red. They just crossed out the language established by law. They updated MASC, pretty minor updates on that. This is just school district legal status, that we are a member of the Tri-Town Union 58, so real minor changes to that. So we'll be seeking a motion to approve policy AA with suggested edits.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and make the motion to approve policy AA with the suggested edits.
I will second that motion.
All in favor of approving policy AA, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
ACA, just the updates to the non-discrimination on the basis of sex, just making sure all protected categories are represented in the policy, and the reference changes from the US DOE Notice of Interpretation. And it lists the website there that is being updated, and then they added the cross-reference to the other policies. So there is some minor changes to ACA, so seeking a motion to approve ACA as suggested, with suggested edits.
Okay. I will make the motion to approve policy ACA with the suggested edits.
Second that motion.
Any discussion before I move on? Okay, all in favor of approving policy ACA, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Thank you all very much. BB, school committee legal status. And this basically talks about, we'd have school committees, 5 members, 3-year terms. They just changed, anywhere where it said town, they changed it to municipality and public school district. They just sort of outlined that a little bit more. Updated the source and the legal reference down the bottom. So just minor changes to that policy, so seeking a motion to approve BB with suggested edits.
All right, I will make a motion to approve policy BB with suggested edits.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of approving policy BB, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
So we'll come back to BEDH in a second. So if you can go to BG, School Committee Policy Development. This is the policy that talks about, they will have a subcommittee and they'll bring policies that need to be reviewed, and they crossed out the word system and made it district. Through the study and evaluation reports concerning the execution of its policies, the school committee will exercise control over the school operation. And then they changed day to date to day to day, and they further refined Massachusetts Board of Elementary and Secondary Education as opposed to the Board of Education, and updated the source to be 2022. So we'll be seeking a motion to approve policy BG with suggested edits.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve policy BG with edits.
I will second that motion.
All in favor of approving policy BG, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay.
Thank you very much. BGC, policy revision and review. So the committee will evaluate how its policies are implemented, Relying on feedback from staff, students, community, the superintendent will bring to the attention all the policies that are out of date, which is again what we're doing. And then they crossed out the last section there. The school committee directs the superintendent to periodically recall all policy and regulation manuals. We do that through the policy subcommittee. So this is the update for that. So seeking a motion to approve BGC as suggested edits, or with suggested edits.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve policy BGC with suggested edits.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of approving policy BGC, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Thank you very much. Policy BHE, use of electronic messaging by school committee members. They crossed out the section that says copies of school committee emails or electronic messaging would be printed and retained in the central office. We administer a school committee email address, right? So you don't have your own, so we don't need to do that. Because you have a school committee email address, everything gets archived, so they're just crossing that line out. And they updated the source, so seeking a motion to approve BHE with suggested edits.
Okay, I will make the motion to approve policy BHE with suggested edits.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of approving policy BHE, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Thank you. BID, school committee member compensation and expenses. The school committee shall serve without compensation unless otherwise under city or town charter or regional agreement. And so they've crossed out some other language there because it's not connected to a town charter or any type of regional agreement. They've updated the source, the legal reference, and the cross-references to this one. So we'll be seeking a motion to accept policy BID with suggested edits.
I will make that motion.
Well, I'm confused about this, because isn't there a line item in the budget where?
Just gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah,
I believe we can, because it says unless otherwise under city or town charter or regional agreement.
Okay.
So, my understanding of that would be that there is within Middleton the ability to do that.
okay,
That's how I read that.
okay,
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, I made it.
okay. All in favor of approving policy BID, say aye.
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 Any nays?
All right, EB, this is a safety program, and it talks about accidents are obviously undesirable and unplanned, and instead of trying to define them, it just said tragic consequences and trying to define any of those tragic consequences. They changed the word plant to facility instead of school plant, which is kind of a weird name, school facility. People think it's something green. School district, and then they just talked about fire prevention and health and safety and not trying to get into a whole bunch of other different categories. So some minor updates to that, an update to the MASC source. So we're seeking a motion to approve EB with suggested edits.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve policy EB with suggested edits.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of approving policy EB, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay.
EEA, Student Transportation Services, changing system to district, eliminating taxi contractors, 7D is part of the law, employing 7D contractors for school districts, and then updating the source on the bottom, MASC, updated 2022. So seeking a motion to approve EEA with suggested edits.
I will make a motion to approve policy EEA with suggested edits.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor of approving policy EEA, say aye.
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 Any nays?
All right, thank you very
I
much.
feel like I'm like singing Old MacDonald had a
Right,
horse or something.
exactly, pretty much. EEAA, we'll be seeking to have this policy removed from the book. It is extraordinarily specific and just for Middleton. It talks about like exact bus stops and things like that, and it's a policy that is no longer really in use, that routes change, as we work with the vendor. So this is a policy that should be removed from the book because it's not something that happens as it's listed here. So we'll be seeking a motion to remove EEAA. It's the only one that exists. It's funny, there was no specific one for Topsfield, no specific one for Boxford. It's just very specific to Middleton.
So we will now be picking up, the buses will pick up students if they live closer than a half mile?
Steve, what's the law?
The law is anyone that lives 2 miles or more from their assigned school is eligible for transportation. As far as a designated stop, you can make them walk up to 1.5 miles from their mailbox or home to a designated stop.
1.5 miles.
Yeah. But see, the premise of that law is based upon reimbursement,
Okay.
but that is the only reference point, so there isn't anything that says, oh, you gotta take this into consideration.
Yeah.
The law doesn't do that. And again, the purpose for the law was for reimbursement. That's where it was coming from. They weren't looking at safety.
Right.
That becomes a whole other, once you do that, you own it. Whoever comes up with that
There's
one.
no sidewalks. Like, you can walk in.
Any of it, I mean, the second you do it,
Yeah.
you put a policy in place, or you do anything like that,
Yeah, no.
And there is a generic transportation policy that we need to update that Steve's working on. He's got the language that we'll bring back to the committee that would sort of serve in place of this. So, I'll be seeking a motion to remove this one from the policy book.
Beyond that. So do we currently pick up students within a half mile?
let's call it the practice,
Okay,
all right?
All right.
Because there can always be a circumstance
Correct.
where you can't do it within a half a mile. The practice in a perfect scenario would be, yes, we'd
Okay.
like to be able to pick kids up within the half a mile. But some people have driveways that are a quarter of a mile long.
Exactly.
It's crazy, but it's true,
Yeah.
So that's what the practice is. That is not policy, and that is not law. That is the courtesy that we try to execute, but now that we also don't have as many drivers, how we did things pre-pandemic, we're not able to do now.
okay. So I will make a motion to remove policy EEAA.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of removing policy EEAA, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
All right, thank you.
It's a mouthful.
EEAEB is a policy we need to adopt. We haven't really had this policy because we've always contracted our buses out, and drug testing would happen through like NRT. Now that we have a commercial vehicle, right, we have the truck now. So we just want to make sure we have this policy in place because we do now have a commercial vehicle. So we're looking to adopt EEAEB.
Okay, let me just read through this
Yep.
real quick. So, with our truck, is there only a certain amount of people who are allowed to drive it?
Steve Clifford.
He's the only one? Okay.
I would obviously hope we're never
Yeah.
employing this policy, but we want to have it on the books
Yeah. So, basically, this is just saying that
if there was ever an accident.
the district shall adhere to federal law and the Department of Transportation regulations requiring a drug and alcohol testing program for school bus drivers and commercial vehicle drivers. Such testing will be conducted for 5 different situations: pre-employment, randomly following an accident, following an authorization to return to duty, and upon reasonable suspicion that a driver is under the influence of alcohol or using drugs. And then it just goes on to say that we'll comply with the Department of Transportation. So I will make a motion to approve policy EEAEB.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting policy EEAEB, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay.
Thank you all. And then just let's roll back to BEDH. So BEDH, public participation at school committee meetings. So Michelle had some ideas that she brought to the policy subcommittee. We navigated that through the 3 towns. Everybody had some different thoughts and opinions. Hey, let's maybe add this, add this. We swung it back around. We rolled Mike into the process, and Mike said, well, actually, we have created like a policy that aligns with all the latest court cases and legal ramifications. Like if you look at the bottom of this policy, it talks about Barron versus Southborough. That was a recent court case that had an implication on how folks can public speak at a school committee meeting. For example, we can no longer require people to present their marks in a respectful manner. They are encouraged to do so. With all of that said, though, the chair really has the control to, jump in if if we feel like things are getting undermined, or it's feeling like it's heading in a direction in which we don't want it to necessarily head from a respect perspective, and put out reminders and things like that. So this is a policy. This policy is one vetted through Mike's office. We brought this to Topsfield on last Thursday. In red, you'll see the slight additions that Topsfield wanted to add in there, just sort of further articulating like the 15-minute time frame. It's sort of intuitive, where it talks about 7 people, 2 minutes, 3 minutes a person, but they wanted to have it more specifically called out. Again, the chair can always extend that time frame, but to have some sort of a bound time is always a helpful thing, but under any sort of circumstance, the chair can deem something to be extenuating. And then also just identifying that the chair is the one who could curtail a verbal comment once they exceed the time limit outlined in paragraphs 5 and 7. And that's always a practice that we have followed. Like, we always keep sort of the 3-minute timer, and the chair will often just say, excuse me, we just need to let you know your 3 minutes have ended, and so on and so forth. So this is the policy that Mike is recommending. We had sent him sort of what we're cobbling together amongst the 3 towns, and he sent this back to us, and Michelle had a chance to look through it, and I had a chance to look through it, and as I said, we brought it to Topsfield. They made a couple of minor tweaks to it. They did vote it as this at the moment. Doesn't mean we can't still have any further conversation if there was conversation to be had, but just to give you the update, this is where we are on BEDH. I don't know if you want to add anything, Michelle, from...
No, I think that covers it. It does have the 15 minutes in there, but it does say that no one will be denied the ability to speak and submit their comment, whether in writing or verbally, and allows the chair to extend if needed. It also states that people need to sign up for a public comment before the meeting is called to order, and then the sign-up window closes once the meeting has started.
Yeah, those were ads that we had put in, yeah.
Right, and then, I mean, should I read this, like each paragraph, just so people watching know what's going on?
I mean, we can post it, certainly. You could certainly read it, but I would say to you, it's already existing out there in the world, like on MASC. My guess is that some communities have already adopted this updated policy, because it was coming from legal, and it includes all the latest legal things. If you wanted to maybe just highlight the salient points as opposed to reading it through, I think we might lose people just because it's
right,
long.
yeah. No,
But, I think it's a policy that welcomes public comment. The chair is the one who, sort of runs that public comment, and you talked about the sign-up part of it, that the sign-up has to occur at the start of the meeting.
So I'll start with paragraph 3, paragraph 4. The public speak may concern items that are not on the school committee's agenda, but which are within the scope of the school committee's authority, not to exceed 15 minutes. Any comment involving staff members or students must concern the educational goals, policies, or budget of the public schools, or the performance of the superintendent. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present the material and must begin their comment by stating their name and city or town. If there are more than 7 people signed up, the time limit will drop to 2 minutes per speaker. No one will be denied the opportunity to submit their public comment, whether verbally or in writing. The presiding chair may permit extension to the 15-minute time limit in extenuating circumstances. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the presiding chair before or after the meeting. If any one comment is cut off due to the time limit, their full comment, if provided, will be sent to all committee members and posted with the meeting minutes. You can't assign, you can't sign up and give your time slot to another person.
Right, like I only used a minute, so I'd like to give my 2 minutes.
Right,
to
yep.
Yep.
Speakers who require reasonable accommodations on the basis of a speech-related disability or who require language interpretation services may be allotted a total of 5 minutes to present their material. Speakers must notify the school committee by telephone or email at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting if they wish to request an extension of time for one of these reasons. The chair may not interrupt speakers. In order to allow a peaceable and orderly meeting, no person may offer comment without permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. Is there any discussion?
The only part I don't really care for is number 7, because I think it's sort of personal what one person views. Like whatever, it talks about the chair reserves the right to terminate speech. Verbal comments will also be curtailed by the chair once they exceed the time limit outlined. Paragraphs 5 and 7. I don't know. I mean, if someone comes in and threatens violence like that, I feel like that's pretty.
Well, like
Pretty cut
at the
and dry.
top, I think it says, in paragraph 2, it says, all speakers must conduct themselves in a peaceable and orderly manner. In addition, they are encouraged but not required to present their remarks in a respectful manner.
And I had asked Mike just some general questions, like, what is the procedure to remove someone from a meeting that might be being disruptive? If a person is warned and persists in their disruptive behavior, the chair may order the person to leave the meeting per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20G. Once the chair asks the person to leave, I asked Mike, they must exit the meeting, or is it considered to be trespassing? If the person was ordered to leave and refuses to do so, the chair may authorize an officer to remove the person from the meeting. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20G. And
Like the meeting would stop because we would be calling.
yeah. Yep.
I don't know, and I don't think this is anything to do with the policy, but like, you can move public comment wherever you want, right? You can
Yes.
put it at the end of the meeting.
It can be anywhere on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, that's the only feedback that I have. I mean, I think a true threat, like a threat of violence, is very obvious, but I don't know, I just think back for myself across the past 5 years, like, something that I might think is offensive or threatening, somebody else might view it as, like, that's just the way they feel or whatever, and it's like, but who's to say
Yeah.
who's right?
And I think that's where, the person on the committee would communicate to the chair,
Like, I don't feel comfortable?
I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah,
I'm feeling
okay.
uncomfortable right now.
Okay.
And I can't speak for my other committee members, but this is feeling like threatening to me.
Yeah,
And I need to communicate that to the chair, and hopefully the chair at that point would then, whoever the chair may be, would
Yeah.
say, okay, we have a member who is feeling this way. We need to go into the policy and follow what it says in the policy.
yeah, okay.
Because, there is no, there's no litmus test for that, right? Like,
Right.
what, I might be afraid of dogs, you might not be afraid of dogs.
Right.
Like, it's not right or wrong, it's just the nature of things, right?
Right.
So, I can't determine what your level of fear might be of again, if I'm using a dog as an example, like, I have to respect what you say to me.
Right,
You know what I mean? If you were to come to
Right.
my house, I'd say, okay, I'll put the dog away.
right.
Steve would never do that, but
No.
he loves dogs too
Like,
much.
just
dog's
don't come to my
Exactly,
house.
exactly.
Stay home. Yeah, I mean, that was really my only,
So if that were the case and somebody expressed that, the chair can say,
Yeah.
that's it, end of the discussion.
Well, she can't say in a discussion, but if you would warn the person that their disruptive behavior is causing someone to feel that way, so you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm asking you that you need to lower your tone and choose a different course of language.
Okay.
And then if they're warned again, the chair can ask that person to leave. And we would, at that point, if it was feeling like that, we would call a recess and
Yeah. Okay.
ask for public safety to be involved.
There's a plan in place.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion on this?
And just to be clear, where it says that you'll not interrupt the speaker, up above where it says they're allotted 3 minutes, the end of the 3 minutes, you
Yes.
say your time is up.
Yeah.
That's not what they're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
And it would change to 2 minutes based on how many people
Okay.
are signed up. Yeah.
And again, if the chair wanted to, with the 15 minutes in there, if the chair wanted to say, we have a very full agenda tonight, we do have to keep this to 15 minutes, but I will accept any written comments as well, and we'll add them to the minutes. I mean, the chair would have the right to be able to say that, because again, no one will be denied to submit their statements, whether verbally or in writing. And so people still could, and have it including in the minutes, but still allowing someone's comment to get in there. So,
And then one other question, so where it says if somebody needed accommodations, if they needed the 5 minutes, they're required 48 hours in advance to notify?
So it's like if someone had a hard time like with the language, or they needed just extra,
we need an interpreter.
right, they needed just extra time, so they would have to notify us 2 days or 48 hours in advance to say, I'm not gonna be able to stick to the 3 minutes, I need extra time because of this reason. Okay, that makes sense.
And that 48 hours, Jackie, fits with,
Yeah.
the meeting is posted 48 hours in advance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It kind of fits that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve policy BEDH with the edits.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor of approving policy BEDH, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay.
Thank you all.
All right, so at the March meeting, when we do the agenda, make sure that this
Yeah,
is
let
the
me
one
make a
that's
note.
linked.
Yeah, so let me actually, Colin, will you just make a note for us to, we have to get through Boxford on Thursday, and then once we're through Boxford on Thursday, we could take the old policy down and put this one up, and then make sure that the school committee policies or school committee agenda, let me just make a note here. The school committee agendas in March have new public comment policy. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you all for that. Let me back out of the policy drive and go back to the agenda. Foreign language programming discussion. So this is a discussion, came up at our last meeting. Natasha had brought up the idea of just where we have, diversity of backgrounds and families being part of our district, having a conversation around foreign language programming. I did say, Natasha, at the beginning of the meeting, it might be a little bit difficult to do that without Jen and Jeff here today, where they're both not feeling well. It might be a good conversation, certainly for Saturday's budget meeting, not Friday's budget meeting. I know that Jeff, in talking with him, one of the things he's thinking about, from what I understand, is putting like a coding and a computer science course, like eliminating and dropping artivation from the enrichment programming, and trying to dial in and focus on computer science and coding as we think about those fields being, as our kids, as we talk about preparing our kids for their future, not our past. Like, that's certainly going to be a field that our kids will be involved in, I can tell you right now, as they navigate through their grades and ages, and so on and so forth. So happy to have a discussion for sure. I don't know how fruitful it will be without
Yeah.
the whole gang here.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, my questions about it, we could punt them till
Yeah.
Saturday.
Okay.
Can I ask, just out of curiosity, do we know, because we do have so many, but we have a lot of different languages, what is the, besides English, what's the second, most spoken in the
Yeah.
school?
I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Matt.
I don't, but what I can tell you is that is not there is one, I think it might be Gujarati, but I have to go and look. There's not one major predominant language
Okay.
of all the kids that we've taught. With the increase in population we have, there's not a 75%.
Okay,
I can definitely take a look and report back out on that, but it's rather evenly dispersed.
interesting.
What are the, just out of curiosity, what,
It kind of runs the gamut from, like I said, Gujarati to, I wish, you know what, if
What
you
is
give me a minute, I
Gujarati?
might be able to call it up. I might have
Yeah.
it from Karen. Let me just do that before I speak out of turn.
So, is it okay to jump ahead while Matt's looking at something else?
Sure.
There's a couple of quick ones we
Yep.
can knock off here. Surplus AEDs we had in the drive. There's 2 AEDs that I believe were at Howe Manning Life Pack AEDs that the fire department had deemed out of date, they have expired or whatever. So they've replaced them already. They've already brought in 2 new ones, but we just need to declare these surplus like we do with technology and some of the other things. So we would need a motion to declare the 2 Life Pack AEDs as listed in the drive as surplus. which we will then dispose of. It's not going to be like no one else is using it.
Right.
It'll be-
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor of surplusing the 2 life pack defibrillators, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay.
Do you need another minute?
Nope, I'm good.
Look at that.
Yep, I got it. So, Portuguese, Spanish, Russian, Arabic, Gujarati,
What is Gujarati? What is?
And Indian?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh.
Russian, Chinese, Cantonese, and a couple more Portuguese. So those are the last list I have. That's the differentiation in language.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and like I said, there's, at quick glance, it doesn't look like it's more than maybe 6 of a specific language or so of that whole list.
Okay to stay with Matt for Dash updates?
Yes.
And Jackie as well.
Yep.
Jackie's been a big part of that. Might even be more Jackie than Matt. Just from a presentation perspective.
Yeah, so in the drive, you'll see a presentation about the updated DASH program, and just as a reminder, the DASH program is our Disability Awareness and Acceptance Starts Here, is what it stands for. It's been in existence for a very long time in the district, and we've been talking for several years, actually, Jackie, probably going back almost since I started, so 8 years or so, maybe even before that, about updating it. It's just been an older curriculum that we wanted to kind of take a look at. So if you take a look at the presentation, and thank you to Jackie for this, you can see Jackie is the director, the DASH director for Middleton, and then we have Elena Barry for Boxford and George May in Topsfield. DASH is an interesting little subsection of how we do this. We collaborate very closely. Tri-Town Council is also involved in this discussion, so it's kind of the district and Tri-Town Council kind of work together with the DASH directors to kind of put the program in place. Do you want me to run through it, Jackie? You want to
You
jump
want me
in?
to run through it, since I made it? I can.
Sure.
I'm happy to. Okay.
Love to.
And actually, I realized I didn't even put anything about Tri-Town Council in here, so I'll add that. What we did is we updated how the information is distributed and what the students experience. Before, it was basically 2 hours a grade per like a disability type, and we just went 2nd grade through 5th grade. Some towns had a small experience for 1st grade, but that wasn't consistent across towns either. Middleton had it for the past couple of years because I did it, but the other 2 towns I don't even think addressed 1st grade, so that was inconsistent as well. But we always kept saying, like, it's 2 hours a year is not enough to ring home whether it's empathy or just the disability discussion. And what we did is we changed how the information is distributed, and so that language and the topics and the content is more regularly part of a student's year. So we went from, if you go to slide 5, it talks about like old model versus new model, and old model was 2 to 3 sessions per grade level. The new one it should be basically at least 1 a month for the entire school year. Every grade K through 6 will experience that. So I feel like that'll make a big difference, and it just will become common part of their, of the language and their experience. The amount of topics covered and the diversity of topics covered changes. Before, we really, we always talked about empathy, but if they got 1st grade, they targeted Down syndrome in some towns. Otherwise, it was visual impairments, hearing impairments, invisible disabilities, physical disabilities. And with the new model, we've been able to expand and have more. Sorry, my screen just went wonky. Cover things like disability history or just kind of how everybody has differences, some are like general topics, also belonging, empathy, inclusion on top of a few different disability categories. One of the biggest ways we're doing this is just through books and reading, which will be read in the classrooms by parent volunteers with a related activity or video. And then also we're going to tie in the community libraries with this as well. And try and find more family involvement and community involvement with it. So I did include the titles of the books that we've chosen, which I do think this will evolve. Right now, we went with a list of books, then what we could find available for the number of books that we were getting, because we went across all 3 towns, so that was kind of hard. If, you know, there's one book in particular, I think it's called Want to Play, that we loved, but we couldn't get the number of books that we needed for it. So maybe in another year, we would, you know, either add or take one of these out and add, you know, different books in. But this is where we're starting. So there's the titles and the authors of the books that we're using, and there's a big variety in those topics or in those books. And then we purchased a curriculum called Changing Perspectives that will guide us a little bit on some of the activities, and that's also where we got some of the ideas for some of the books. And that in conjunction with a program called Go Beyond Awareness, which was another one of our big themes, which is going beyond just saying hello and high fives in the hallway. How do you get students to better understand and the empathy part and make connections and relationships, and Go Beyond Awareness helps a lot. And they provide an outline, and she actually says in the book, she says, you know, I've been where you are. I've done the simulation activities, I've done the blindfolds, I've done the ride the wheelchairs, and it doesn't work. So that was a big reason for looking at the change as well. So she provides some great resources, and I list her information at the end. But those are the 2 curriculums or kind of programs that we've pulled from kind of for new inspiration as well. Question and answers after the read alouds, and Changing Perspectives does have some conversation topics as well that we'll be able to provide to the parent volunteers. And we're going to continue, because one of the biggest areas that has been impactful is speakers and presenters. So we'll continue with bringing speakers in. Right now we have 2 students from Masco who are asking to come speak, and that's always been wonderful. We still have a student from Hamilton Wenham who's been speaking for years now, and she loves to come speak, so she'll be coming back. So that's 3 student speakers. And then we're looking to bring in Common Ground Society, which they're actually based out of California. And they're actually, it's 2 moms who started this organization, and they have children with significant disabilities, and their hashtag is Hello Belonging. And so their whole presentation is creating a culture of belonging and be the one who includes, be the one who helps somebody feel like they belong. And so we are looking to bring them in for a virtual, it would, because they're on the West Coast, it would be a virtual pre-recorded video that they put out, and they'll specialize the presentation to grade level, age level. If we wanted like a certain disability type, they could specialize the presentation that way. But the virtual pre-recorded presentation that all the students will be able to watch, most likely in their individual classrooms, and then figuring out, we have the opportunity of doing a live Q&A with them from California, which will take some scheduling. But question and answer with them, and figuring out how we might do that. But that's part of the package presentation for Common Ground Society. We talked about the student presenters and others to be determined. Community engagement contests, this was something new too. We were trying to like, how else can we get kids to engage with the topic of inclusion or DASH, and what does it mean? So we came up with the idea of doing kind of like a 6th grade legacy project, as the 6th graders have been through most of the DASH program, and kind of leaving their mark and reflecting on, what does this mean to me? And any student who wants to participate in whatever means works for them, so to be an inclusive contest as well. Somebody could make a video, do a play, they could do, they could write something, they could build a model, they could draw a picture, like whatever works. And then this would be across all 3 towns, so winners would be chosen, and in the end, one would be chosen to design like a new Dash logo. And so that would be, again, across the town, and winners from all 3 towns would be awarded, I don't know, like a popsicle party or pizza party or something like that. We'd work with the teachers for that. Future goals, and this is from Beyond Awareness. It's similar to what we've done in the past with the hands-on activities, but in Beyond Awareness, she talks about like a celebration, like a Beyond Awareness celebration. And so it's setting up essentially like we've done, it's, we did it at Fuller Meadow. It's like a health fair that they did in the past, but it would basically be like a disability awareness fair, and inviting and finding individuals with disabilities in the community and having them come in and man the different stations, and then our students are interacting and engaging with people with lived experience and learning about the technology and the equipment from somebody who firsthand who uses it. And that's a long-term goal. We're looking at, that's going to take a lot of planning. So we're hoping for maybe the end of 2025 to be looking at bringing in the Beyond Awareness celebration. And it highlights topics that we haven't addressed in the past. So there's a portion on disability history and civil rights. There's a portion on assistive technology, new and old, ableism, access and inclusion, and respectful language. And so those are, some of those topics have been addressed to some extent, but those would be what the stations would focus on and help. We started the conversations in the past on, think about, yes, using a wheelchair could be hard, but why is it hard? And what can you do as a person to create an environment so that isn't the case for for your friend or for fellow students or down the road. So helping their brain think in that way on how they can be, how they can impact change that way. What we need for Dash to be successful is funding, and again, we fall under TTC. They've offered to help us find some grants. Right now, the reason we were able to move forward at all with the newer program is because Elena Berry, who's our our Boxford director, did secure two grants, one from BEST as they are closing out their funds, and then another one through Institution for Savings, I believe. And so to get us, that's how we purchase the books, and we'll secure some of the presentations, but to move forward and with like a big event like the Dash Fair, then we're going to need more funding, sponsors, and donations. All 3 towns are in need of board members to help to plan and coordinate, organize, schedule events, including fundraising. And we're looking for people too that, even if you can't say, I can dedicate my time to coming in and reading, but maybe you have an area of expertise or you have a connection for something that would be helpful with fundraising, then asking people to please reach out. And then volunteers in the classrooms, that's always been feedback that we've received, also especially at the lower schools, is that parents love the opportunities to come into the classrooms. So the way that would look right now would be coming in to do the read alouds in the class and to do the activities. It could potentially be, before, maybe we were looking for 4 or 5 volunteers per session. We'll be looking for at least 4 or 5 read alouds throughout the year, plus maybe somebody helping to come volunteer when the presenters come. So essentially you're looking at an opportunity every month, which is more than we were looking at previously as well. And then the purple slide is just the resources. It's the link to the Changing Perspectives curriculum and the Go Beyond Awareness. And I had found a podcast that I shared out with Elena and George from Boxford, and George, I think, had actually already sent it to the principals through Topsfield. But it lays out and articulates very clearly why we're looking to make make the shift and outlines, like the DASH fair, or the disability, of the Go Beyond Awareness fair, and why the need for that change. It describes that beautifully, so there's a link to that as well. And then just our contact information at the end.
Okay. So the changes to the, go back to that slide. The old model versus the new model, has that happened yet?
So we are looking to roll out, I would say, depending on the other two towns, I just met with another mom today, in Middleton by March. To be getting, maybe it would happen by the end of this month, but by March to have our first like read aloud going, and then scheduling. So if we have a read aloud in March, then again, this will be an abbreviated year, getting it back rolled out. But say we have a read aloud in March, then we would have a speaker in April, and then a read aloud in May, and then a speaker, or, in June, and that's what this year would look like, and then next year would alternate reading speaker type schedule.
Yeah. I do agree. I think the once a month is better than the
Yeah.
2 or 3
Yes.
times per year. Yeah.
Jackie, this is great. It's a lot of work that went into this.
It has been a lot of work.
It's been,
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
I wanted to mention that and say thank
Yeah.
you for my perspective too.
amazing.
It's just been a tremendous amount of kind of work over the years and reflection over the years and trying to get the support to help implement these lessons and everything. It's the 3 directors, including Jackie, have just really been put in a just incredible amount of hours into this. So thank you. for
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
And thank you for your support. So like it'll be working kind of kinks out and all of that, because it will be a new program, but I'm hopeful, we're all hopeful that, again, it'll just expose the students to more and more regularly, and that can only be a good thing. And teachers and families as well, so we're hopeful that it will go well.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
And then just the last thing, I'm happy to take any other questions on the SOI, if folks have any, but again, this would just be to allow us to get into the potential to receive some state funding to help with that section of roof. And I gave you the wrong amount. Did I say 7,500? I meant to say 31,000.
31,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
7,500 is Boxford. Middleton's 31,000. It's a
Okay.
lot larger section of roof. I'm just looking at the number now. So Boxford is 7,500, Middleton is 31,000 square feet. And you can see there, it's the side of the southwest area of the school. The roofing is original to the section of the school building constructed in 95, 96. The roof is of ethylene propylene diene monomer, EPDM, synthetic rubber construction. The roofing has exceeded its service life, is in need of replacement. To secure the health, safety, function of the classroom, gym, and hallways it serves below. So it's, I think, this side of the building, and sort of coming down into this little transition area down here as well, would be the section of the roof. So happy to, Steve and I can take any questions on it, but this does nothing more than just allow us to submit an application,
Okay. So you need me to read,
the whole thing.
okay,
We need a motion,
like from, not just the highlighted part, but.
yeah, like you need to read the whole resolved, and then we would need a motion to move what
Okay.
Michelle said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bear with me for a moment. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on February 5th, 2024, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the School Committee of Middleton, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest form dated 28 February 2024 for the Fuller Meadow Elementary School located at 143 South Main Street, Middleton, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 1, the Middleton Public Schools seeks to replace a section of the roof of approximate 31,724 square feet in size, located at the southwest area of the school. The roof is original to its section of the school building, constructed in 1995 through 1996. The roof is of ethylene, propylene, diene monomer, EPDM, synthetic rubber construction. The roofing has exceeded its service life and is in need of replacement to secure the safety, health, and function of the classrooms, gymnasium, and hallways it serves below. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance of the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Middleton to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
So moved. We would need a so moved.
Would anyone like to second that motion?
I will second that motion.
I think you need to
Make,
maybe
make a
move it.
motion.
So
Okay,
moved,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll make the motion to
Yeah, move
accept,
what,
or move.
the resolution Michelle read.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor of, what are we calling this?
The FOI, SOI submission for full amount.
Okay, all in favor of submitting the SOI
Application
application of,
for full amount.
for Fuller Meadow, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay,
They make
That's
it,
done.
they make it tough, right? Thank you
Yeah.
all for that. We'll keep you tuned in on
okay,
that for sure.
I need to sign the bills and payroll. So can we, just move along the consent agenda and then sign it all after?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Motion to approve bills and payroll as listed.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the bills and payroll as listed.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of approving the bills and payroll, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, I think that is all for tonight.
And just as a reminder, we are here in person, 8:30 on Saturday for the budget meeting.
Like 8:30 to 11:30-ish?
Yeah, I would say, Jackie, we have it, the agenda says till 12:30, but I
Okay,
was saying to
okay.
Dave earlier this week that if comping out to Topsfield and Boxford, we finished both of those, it was like 11:15, 11:30.
Okay.
So I think we've done that in the past. I don't think we've ever gone till 12:30.
No.
I think we just hold it just in case, but I think it'll be done by 11:30. Yeah. Just, you'll be closest to Steve, so just give him a kick if he gets a little long-winded.
Or start yawning?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Paul.